Rated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. We're less than 24 hours to kick off of a new NFL season. And with what comes with NFL season is betting. So welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast, because it's betting what you want. This is the place to be. This is the podcast for you, the average bettor, like me, the average bettor that goes through all the lines, does the best they can to make some money, gets suckered in sometimes to the same game parlays and some of the action going on because there's, the Sunday nighters on or the Monday nighters on. I'm like you. You're following my experience. Welcome aboard if you haven't joined us before. So you can follow the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast on Twitter, aka X, at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. And also on Instagram at Overrated Experience. This is season 4 of the podcast, which usually kicks off for NFL season as the beginning of the season. And we got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, kicking it off tomorrow night. And, we're here to level set you what we think we're going to go with. You can do what you want, but you're going to hear what I have to say in relation to the Cowboys, Eagles. We're going to have some plays on the over-unders and spreads and some leans either way, and then go into the Friday nighter live from Brazil, Kansas City, taking on the San Diego, holy crap, the Los Angeles Chargers, all the way in Brazil. So a lot to go through here on the Overrated Experience. If you haven't hit us up in the last couple episodes, we talked about the college football season, the special on Netflix, the SEC any given Saturday, so go through that. That you can do that at any time. That's just goes through the show and my thoughts on that, the SEC college experience, football wise. And then also our previous episode went through your survivor pools, what picks we would make in the 18 weeks if you had to make them now in your survivor pools. Please take a listen to that. If you don't know what a survivor pool is, perfect time to listen to that podcast. All right. So, you square bettors out there, you regular Joes, you regular people, you regular bettors just like me. Just some topics we're going to hit up before we get into the actual lines for the Thursday and Friday is expect another podcast to drop to reflect on picks against the spread for Sunday's games. And then we'll try to pop in a props podcast to go through all the different props that stand out and look good. Now, honestly, my first look at this is the props are the ones that move a lot. Those are the lines that are absolutely, differences can be seen at various books. So right now I've used DraftKings and FanDuel. Big time differences, and a yard counts. Yards do count. When you got rushing yards, total passing yards, I bet you've lost because of a yard. So don't discount don't minimalize a yard or two. It's a big difference. And props, it may be our opportunity to get to the pay window. So here we go. Some of the news, quick updates before we get into the games. Red Zone announced today. If you're an NFL fan, you're watching Red Zone. All right. If you're an NFL bettor, you're watching Red Zone. So if you don't know what Red Zone is, it was an NFL property where you'd subscribe, and it would basically, Scott Hanson, the host, would bounce to game after game when teams were in the red zone, recap scoring. If a weird story popped up, maybe a major injury, and it would just be like one stop shop to the actual action that was going on, and no downtime. It was very fast paced. They've announced today that they're going to have full commercials. Like they've had commercials before, but usually as you're watching, they had it on the side. However, they're going to go on to full on commercials. I don't know what that's going to look like. A lot of noise online, how people feel about that. How do I feel about that? Glad you asked. Well, I think it was inevitable, right? I don't like it. Don't love it. I don't think it adds value to me, the end user, who's going to watch every Sunday. But just like everything else, I mean, Red Zone's been around for years now. It's now part of your must-have viewing experience when watching on Sunday, and they got you. They hook, line, bum, Dan, you're done. What are you going to do? Are you going to get rid of Red Zone? I'd be very shocked if anybody does. Look at Netflix. Netflix, same thing, right? You could, really share like your passwords, all et cetera, for years. And then Netflix becomes the norm, and then they pick a time to crack down on IP addresses, etc. And what are you gonna do? You're lost. You're gonna get suckered into only having one access, or two if you pay more in a tier package for Netflix. They got you, and Red Zone's got you too. Guess what, guys? They're here to make money, and I don't like it, but I'm not shocked. So we'll see what that experience looks like starting Sunday. Of course, most of us bought, your NFL package or bought Red Zone before this was known. I'm sure that was coincidental, not. And the NFL's corporate, man. If you haven't noticed that, it's not for the love of the game. It's for the love of, the franchise values and the next TV contracts. That is what this is about. And then, there's talk. Don't know if anybody wants this to happen, but is Taylor Swift going to play the halftime show? What are your feelings on that? I was listening to local radio today in Toronto, and the thought was maybe this might be the one act that may look bigger, is Taylor Swift the biggest act of the Super Bowl in history? I got to believe so, yes. And, would she do it? Would you care? I don't really care, but to each his own. So those are my thoughts, and that's just the way it's going to be. So we're going to get to the real life action here. Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons, no Micah Parsons. They decided they wanted to screw around with a potential Hall of Fame defensive player in his prime that is paid to put pressure on a quarterback, which seems to be the second most, desired skill position behind quarterback. And the Dallas Cowboys decided, no, that's not for me. I'm not interested. He's in his prime. Let me send him into another NFC team in the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round draft picks, which may be late picks, and then also an aging defensive tackle. Look, and as you obviously we get older, and we have that team when we grew up that were generational teams. So I was never in the LA, Oakland / Vegas, like Al Davis era when they were winning Super Bowls. I came in as, that was on the decline. The Raiders became a joke, right? It looks like they're probably back on track a little bit. We'll see what happens. But, for a long time, the Raiders were a joke, and that's what my perception was with Al Davis. I didn't see him in those years where he was a genius and, winning Super Bowls. Where I was when I grew up, Jerry Jones was that guy. Jerry Jones was my Al Davis. I hated the Cowboys. I was a 49ers fan at that time. But Jerry Jones won 3 Super Bowls. Right? He buys the Dallas Cowboys, hires Jimmy Johnson, makes the Herschel Walker trade. And if you don't know this, go back, use ChatGPT, look it up. Herschel Walker was one of the best running backs in football. Trades Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings for a ton of draft picks. They pick up, they build the team with Troy Aikman at quarterback, Emmitt Smith at running back, Michael Irvin at wide receiver. Like I said, Jimmy Johnson coaching, and a whole host of other players joining on both sides of the ball. Always known for having a ridiculous O-line. They win back-to-back Super Bowls. They get rid of Jimmy Johnson, bring in Barry Switzer, and that's where the decline starts a little bit. But they go ahead and win a Super Bowl, and that's the last time America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, have sniffed the Super Bowl. All right? So I've seen Jerry Jones, genius, or maybe he just had the right people around him that were the geniuses, and then now the decline. So, he's unable to sign Micah Parsons, and then the Packers immediately have name on a contract and have him signed up long term. So what does it mean for the Cowboys? Will the Cowboys walk into this game against the Super Bowl champions, division rival, and what do they have? What are they going to put up against the Eagles here? And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I think you have two situations here where I think the Cowboys are a bit deflated. You know what I mean? You had your best pass rusher, one of your best player on your team, a week ago. Now he's not on the team. They screwed around with his contract situation where it became a distraction. And then you got an Eagles team, Super Bowl champions, division rival, that I don't think is going to take the foot off the gas here. And I think they're going to kick the shit out of the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to look good. The Eagles are not going to put take their foot off the throat of Jerry's boys, okay? And my bets are going to reflect that. And the line, and you guys, you got to look at the line. You have to have multiple books. Just a heads up to compare lines, compare to prop lines, and take the best value because they are different. In this case, most books, and I'll compare FanDuel, DraftKings, and MGM. These lines opened up at 6.5, and then the Micah Parsons, trade goes down. We see a point go up to 7.5, and now we're currently sitting at 8.5 on all three books. So if you look at all three books, 8.5 is the pretty common pick here, and you have to decide. People are betting this number up. Should I still take it? What are the Eagles going to win by? Assuming you are on the same page as me, which you should be. This is why you're listening for the advice on the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. Will the Eagles blow out the Cowboys? Well, look at this. The Cowboys have no run game, right? They have no run game. They got top-notch, stud receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. But what do the Eagles have? They have an excellent pass rush. You watched in the Super Bowl, Mahomes could not find the time at any point in that ball game to be effective. You think that the Eagles are going to let Dak Prescott off the hook here? He's going to be under pressure the entire game. And the Eagles, with Saquon Barkley, their O-line, their talent everywhere, is going to squeeze the Cowboys. All right? Possession. Eventually, Dallas is going to have to chase. And this is kind of where I'm going with this. So, kick it off. Will the Eagles cover 8.5? I say yes. So, I'm going to take the Eagles minus 8.5 and not feel any way about it. Okay? Well, over-under has now gone up from 46.5 to 47.5. I'm going to stay away from it. I always lean over. But in this case, I'm going to lean under, but I'm going to stay away from it. I don't know if the Eagles will dominate the scoreboard versus dominate. Like when I say dominate, I mean crush. I think they win handily either way. But will they just, instead of going for the knockout punch, really put the Cowboys in a guillotine choke and just drain out the game with no hope for the Cowboys, Jerry and his boys? So I'm going to lean under, but not take it. Then we get into the props side of things. This is what's interesting, and I can't stress this enough. You need multiple books going into the NFL season. Check out incentives to jump on board, deposit incentives, get in there. And I'll tell you why. When I look at the props I like and compare FanDuel to DK, some I'm going DK, some I'm going FanDuel. Some I'm obviously going one way or another. So Eagles total, FanDuel 26.5. Sorry, 28.5. It was up, was down to 26.5 and now up to 20.5. Same with DK, minus 118, but minus 105 when it comes to DK. So why would I take the higher juice on FanDuel, I would take the 28.5 over on DraftKings and not FanDuel. So count that. Eagles total over 28.5. I'm going to pick Dak Prescott. Rushing yards over 7.5. 7.5 right now for Dak Prescott. Minus 108 on FanDuel. Minus 105 on DraftKings. Again, going to have to go with DraftKings because they have the better odds. I don't get why would you not take an extra dollar here or there based on the better juice? Okay? So Dak Prescott over 7.5 yards. There has to be a scenario, in my opinion, where he's going to be running around all night, and at some point, multiple times, he's going to be left at 3rd and 15, 3rd and 10, and the Eagles are going to let him pick up 7 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards here, and punt the ball away. That's how I envision that prop being met. Not in a spectacular hero way, not in a spectacular brave. Oh my God, Dak Prescott is running for first down after first down, a la Lamar Jackson. That ain't happening. Dak Prescott is banged up. He is banged up. Okay, so this is just a mercy bet. Over 7.5. Dak Prescott rushing yards. Saquon Barkley. What a pickup last year for the Eagles. Discarded by the New York Giants. Poorly. Piss poorly. His rushing total right now is 93.5 on FanDuel. 92.5 on DraftKings. I like the over. Which one would you pick? The 93.5 or the 92.5? Of course. DraftKings right now is the way to go. A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown. Plus 150 on FanDuel. Plus 160 on DraftKings. Again, multiple, same bet. Better odds in one place than another. Now, why A.J. Brown? Well, I think we've seen, if you've watched the Eagles and followed the Eagles over the last couple of years, in good times and bad, A.J. Brown wants the ball. And they have to serve up the monster. They have to feed him, regardless of the scenario. So look for the Eagles to make him the first option, unless they're on the 1 yard line and we got a tush push here, to try to find A.J. Brown in the end zone multiple times as this game goes on. They want to keep him happy. They do not want drama, and A.J. Brown will create drama if he's not fed the ball. This doesn't matter if they're up 30 or down 30. He wants the ball. They got to keep him happy. Okay? Staying on the theme of A.J. Brown, his over-under for receiving yards, 69.5 on FanDuel, 71.5 on DraftKings. Obviously, FanDuel, way to go. Okay? So I'm going to take the over on that. He's going to have a couple big plays. He's going to be 6-7 receptions, big chunk yardage, running after the catch. So take A.J. Brown, have a big game, 69.5. I know there is reports of him having issues with his hamstring, but he looks like he's going to go. I don't think he's going to be less than 100%. 2-point conversion. Actually, so let me circle back to that. So, and I'll tell you what, from now on, if you hear me call it the FanDuel or the DraftKings line, you know the other line is not as good, okay? But if there's a wide gap, I'm going to point that out. Look how I changed on the fly. You're welcome. Saquon Barkley, longest rush right now on DraftKings, over 19.5. How many times have we seen Saquon break out a 50, 60-yard rush? Many times. I mean, that was a trick question, but I'm sure you knew the answer. Many times. 19.5, Saquon. You have Jalen Hurts on the, the RPO. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. So 19.5, I love that bet. So looking, the last bet in this game that I like, and I think is worth exploring, at plus 130 on DraftKings. Will there be a 2-point conversion attempt? Let's look at the facts here. The Cowboys are most likely to be chasing, down multiple scores. Has to, configure the scoring. They're lucky to get a touchdown. Most likely they're going to go for two based on the scenario they are having, probably in the second half. Or let's say Eagles score multiple touchdowns. There's an offside on Dallas, and the ball moves up to the 1 yard line. What are the Eagles doing? I'll stop and pause. You can answer. Yes, that is correct. They're going to be on the 1 yard line. They're going to go to the tush push. They're going to look at that two as a locked in two. So plus 130, there is value there. So think about it. Think about it, sleep on it, but don't sleep on it too long before the betting line closes tomorrow night. And that is another interesting note in this game is the Eagles picked up Sam Howell in a trade because Tanner McGee, the backup quarterback, looks like he has a broken ring finger. So what does that mean if this game gets out of hand? How quickly will the Eagles pull Jalen Hurts? Will they? Because how well does Sam Howell know the playbook? I don't know. But that's an interesting note just to keep in mind as you look at your second half lines in your live betting. Now we move to Friday. Looks like it's going to be tradition in the NFL to kick off a game from Brazil. Okay? Brazil. What stood out last year with the Eagles-Packers game in Brazil? Well, what I can tell you is Jordan Love got hurt. I could also tell you the field was slippery as shit. I haven't heard any reports that they have made any changes to that. And I think what this does, it puts into an abnormality into this game that I think it's a little more chaotic and less predictable, which doesn't suit well for a podcast that's trying to predict, but we'll do our best anyway. So Kansas City is, I think, the road team on here. The Chargers are the home team. And the Chargers across all three books, FanDuel, DK, and MGM, -3 are the Chargers. The Chiefs are the favorite, -3. And the over-under is sitting at 46.5 across all three books. What are we going to get in this game? I think we're going to get a shootout. I think it's going to be sloppy. I think there's going to be issues with the turf. I think there's going to be missed tackles. I think these teams, we're talking about teams flying a lengthy period of time to get where they need to go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. I haven't really heard reports, but they're probably not leaving their hotel rooms. They're cooped up in the hotel. It's just not a normal week of preparation. So don't expect, especially defensively, in my opinion, this to look like if this was taking place either at SoFi Stadium or Arrowhead. So in this case, I lean Kansas. I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean Kansas City, but I'm going to stay away from that. I'm not betting that. What I would bet is the over 46.5. It jumped from 45.5. So I like the over. Surprise, because the podcast is called The Overrated Experience. Now, when we get to the props action here, we're going to look at both teams here. So Justin Herbert, quarterback for the LA Chargers. Now, Jim Harbaugh is, Coach Harbaugh is a heavy run first coach. So I think the Chargers will attempt to get on the ground and dominate the ground. But when you got a quarterback like Justin Herbert, you got to let him fly, man. You got to put him out of the nest and let him go. And eventually, at some point in this game, it's going to become a little bit of a shootout. That run game is not going to be where it wants to be. And I think the over-under on the passing yards for Justin Herbert over 231.5, -114, is the play here on FanDuel. Note, running game for the Chargers. Najee Harris, free agent signing, fireworks victim. Yeah, that's right. He got hurt on July the 4th with fireworks. I don't understand the number of people that are fascinated with fireworks. Like, fascinated. Like, I have to watch something blow up. I get it. It's entertaining. But I'm in the midst of an NFL career, and I'm going to be the one lighting up the firework, like getting that close. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? So Najee Harris looks like he's going to play. He's on the active roster at least. He's possible. Let's put him down as possible. One of the big losses for the Chargers in the offseason was Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, out for the year. So that could cause some protection problems for the Chargers. And what I think will happen along with the successful over on the passing yards for Justin Herbert, I think he's susceptible to a little pick. All right, a little pick here, a little INT. Easy to spell, plus 116 on FanDuel. So I like that one as well. I'll take it. Mahomes, Herbert, combined 500 yards. They're going to put on a show on Friday. I like one of them to go off at least 300 yards and the other one to be like the early 220s, 230s. I think that $500 yards is very, very doable. They're going to put on a show plus 125 in FanDuel. Going with FanDuel again. Now we get into the receivers. Excuse me. We have Ladd McConkey of the Chargers. You know, he's the guy over the middle. He's the little guy. He's going to take a lot of volume. Can break open some big plays. And 71.5 yards, I think he's got it. I think he's going to get that, no problem. I think he's going to have a big game. And then Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs. Longest reception over 21.5. Andy Reid and Patty Mahomes look at Xavier Worthy as 4, 5 to 6 big explosive plays that they have in their back pocket every time he steps on the field. So if he hits one of those, this could be big time yardage, okay? He's got blazing speed. They're going to put him in a position to be successful. That's receiving yards. So I like that one. That's over 21.5 minus 114. Minus 114 FanDuel. Back to Ladd McConkey. Total receiving receptions over 5.5 minus 122. He's going to get actually minus 120 on DK, so that might be better. He's going to get peppered. Okay? Herbert's going to pepper him. He's going to pick up a lot of yards, and he's also going to pick up a lot of volume and receptions. So look for Ladd McConkey to have a huge day here today. I threw a late one in here. Late, all right, based on the marriage proposal, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. My thought, thinking, is that Travis Kelce had a bit of an off year this year. Now he's getting prepared to get married. We don't know the date. A lot of excitement going on in the world. Big news. All right, non-football fans, football fans, Swifties, everybody's in awe of this announcement. Amazing. But I think Travis Kelce rebounds, has more of an impactful season, right? And I think it begins in Brazil. So his receiving yards are over 46.5, minus 114. I'll take the over. I'm going to take the over on this one. I think that he's going to have a couple of big plays. He's going to have 5 or 6 receptions. And I think we see the old Travis Kelce make a big run to redeem his place as the top tight end in football. And that's it, guys. There's nothing more I can tell you. You bled me dry of information for these two games. We will be back to talk about the rest of the Sunday card and the Monday Nighter. We'll be back to talk about the props. And I encourage you to take a look at multiple bets and props you like, because you're going to find better deals, other places than others. So keep those options open to yourself. Follow the Overrated Experience on X at Overrated EXPER2 and Overrated Experience on Instagram, both of which are explained in your podcast provider's summary of this podcast. So click on that. And what else got to tell you? That's it. Pleasure's all been yours. We'll talk to you again. Have a good Thursday, Friday kickoff to the NFL season. Bye-bye.